That's crazy talk. Meredith, the marinator, sleeping with suppliers. Wow. What time we got? You know what? That's a good place to end it. Right there. This, I think, was a great ethics seminar. She has given us a lot of wonderful things to think about. Right, what is wrong, who's to say, really, in the end? I mean, because it is unknowable. But let's give her a round of applause. Holly, everybody. Holly, get back to work.
All right, let me give a little bit more of a introduction to metaethics. We hopefully you've seen the general introduction to ethical theory already. This is kind of like a second or third or subpart of that to just expand a little bit on what metaethics studies as a subfield of academic philosophy. So we've already talked about the basic subfields of academic philosophy. And of course we've got ethics there, what is value, and then aesthetics, about beauty, also a question about value, but about aesthetics or art. Logic is a key area of philosophy. Lots of philosophy just deals with applying logic to these issues, and aesthetics, epistemology, political philosophy, and ethics. We got political philosophy down there too, obviously related to questions of value. Then epistemology, what do we know? And metaphysics, what is real? Metaethics is basically the subfield of moral philosophy that deals primarily with the metaphysical and epistemological issues related to morality. So, questions about the nature of moral knowledge. Can we have genuine moral knowledge, or does it all just amount to moral opinion, right? And do values exist? And if so, what's the nature of their existence, right? So we could talk about what good is and then ask whether that value really exists and then how we know about it. And we'd be doing meta ethics there. So recall that the just general idea of moral philosophy has the central aim of securing valid principles of conduct and values that can be instrumental in guiding actions and producing good character. Then we've again talked about our basic subfields of moral philosophy: metaethics, normative ethical theory, and applied ethics. Again, we're going to focus mostly on normative ethical theory, but we are going to do a little bit of metaethics in this course as well. Hence the more in-depth introduction to metaethics here. So quickly to rehearse some things we went over in that first lecture. Normative ethics, also called first order moral theory, tends to be what most people, lay people, not philosophers, think of when they think of morality. You're thinking about, whether it's wrong to lie or it's wrong to harm an innocent person. These sorts of moral concerns that have to do with our basic moral values and standards, basic and more fundamentally, standards of right conduct or good living, right? So the aim of normative theory is to identify and defend some standard of right conduct and good living, again, also called first order moral theory. So what ought I do? How ought I live, or what kind of person should be? Those are the basic questions that a normative ethical theory will try to answer. And all of you are probably already familiar with a basic normative standard. The golden rule, it says treat others as you would want to be treated. And so that's a way of answering the question, what ought I do or how ought I live, right? And then, so first order moral theory, obey the golden rule, right? That's the first order moral theory. And that's so if I don't like people lying to me, I don't want people lying to me, then I should refrain from lying to others. So again, that's a standard. The golden rule is a normative standard or a prescriptive standard that gives us a criteria for distinguishing what's permissible, impermissible, or obligatory, or telling us what is good and bad character, right? That's the aim of a normative theory, and the golden rule is an example of that kind of idea. But then we could ask about the status of the golden rule, and here and how we know the golden rule is the correct standard of morality. There we would be wondering more about metaethical concerns, or what philosophers call metaethical concerns, or second order moral theories, right? So theories about the status of those first order moral theories. Um, So, metaethics, as I say, is just the study of the foundation, status, or ultimate nature of morality, including the existence of moral truths, values, facts, including the possibility of moral knowledge. Again, sometimes called second order moral theory. So, how is it that moral beliefs are justified such that they count as knowledge? Or maybe there's no such thing as moral knowledge, it's all just a matter of opinion or relative. And so, that's one of the basic metaethical debates that we'll be looking at in this class. Is it's a bit of an oversimplification, but on the one hand, we're going to have some views that are relatively skeptical of the moral truth and moral rationality, and then some views that are not skeptical of those sorts of things. And so here I've posed some metaethical questions of the sort we'll be looking at in the class. Is morality relative, subjective, or universal and objective? Are moral truths, facts, values, etc., inventions, or are they discoveries? Is it possible to have genuine moral knowledge, or when it comes to morality, is it all just a matter of our personal subjective preferences? Um, does moral language express moral beliefs that can be objectively true or false? The problem of moral motivation, why be moral? Is it always rational to be moral? Do moral reasons always override other reasons for action, maybe just purely self-interested or prudential reasons for acting? And then what's the role of the emotions in regard to moral reasoning? Is morality a matter of rationality, or is it a matter of feeling, right? So those are some basic questions in metaethics. And of course, when we talk about metaethical theories or normative ethical theories or just moral theories in general, what we have in mind is not something that's just not true, but an explanation of some phenomena based on fundamental principles that are themselves supported with some kind of argumentation or evidence. And so a moral theory, right, is going to have kind of two basic components to it. It's going to have some account of the nature of the foundations of morality, and then it's going to tell us what is and isn't moral, right? So about what's the standard of right conduct and good living that helps us distinguish right from wrong, good and bad, permissible, impermissible, and obligatory, vicious versus virtuous, for example. And so again, it'll involve both normative claims and prescriptive claims, beliefs and judgments, and then stand on or an account of the nature of those beliefs and claims. Are they universal, subjective, relative, objective, so forth? So in the you've probably watched a few pop culture clips that I've provided, and one that I sometimes use comes from The Office, the business ethics episode, where Michael Scott and his HR lady, I forget her name, her character's name here, they are friendly with each other, and he wants her to do well in this HR seminar about business ethics. And he kind of has the following line after some conversation amongst the coworkers. He says, "This is, I think, great. Was a great ethics seminar. She has given us a lot of wonderful things to think about. Right? What is wrong? Who's to say? Really, in the end, I mean, because it is unknowable. Let's give her a round of applause." So Michael Scott there expresses a skeptical view of morality. We can't really know how to distinguish right and wrong, or what right and wrong are. So even though it's a piece of pop culture, we got some philosophy written in there as well, some philosophical presuppositions and claims that he's making about the nature of morality. And this is kind of a good way of trying to introduce this basic metaethical debate. I've kind of oversimplified it here, but again, on the one hand, we've got a family of views that would fall under the realist section, and then some views that would fall under the broadly construed, again, the anti-realist position. So just the names of those theories tip us off a little bit, right? On the one hand, we have theories that claim that there's something real about morality, and on the other hand, that there's something invented or constructed about morality. So on the one hand, under moral realisms, there are views that there are some, meaning at least one objective, universal, or mind-independent moral fact, truth, or value, and that it's rational to be moral. So moral rationalism there, as opposed to moral skepticism. On that side of the debate, you're going to run into ideas like moral relativism, ethical objectivism, moral rationalism, and cognitivism. On the other side, it's the denial of realism. Anti-realism is just the denial of realism. So that means there are no moral truths that are objective, universal, etc. They're constructions of somehow, and maybe it's not always rational to be moral. So forms of anti-realism include with things like moral relativism, moral subjectivism, moral skepticism, nihilism, emotivism, expressivism, and error theory. These are all some basic views under that side of the debate that you're likely to run into when studying these sorts of things. So to pick up just a little bit more on what doing metaethics will be like, we've seen this example from Michael Scott here, and now I've just reconstructed his basic argument from that scene into an argument for moral skepticism. So I have here, if there's widespread disagreement over ethics, then there's no real answers to ethical questions. They're unknowable, as he says. There's widespread disagreement over ethics, thus there are no answers to ethical questions. They're unknowable, again, as he said it in the quote there. So I've just got a little basic modus ponens argument there, and then the question that we always have to ask ourselves about arguments when we're analyzing include two basic evaluative questions. Are all the premises true? And does the conclusion follow from the premises themselves, given the form of or type of argument that it is? So once we're engaged in that activity of noting metaethical claims, looking at the reasons given in support of those claims, and then analyzing those arguments for and against those claims, now we're doing metaethics, right? And so again, be on the lookout in pop culture for the expression of all sorts of metaethical claims as well as normative claims. If you're familiar with Rick and Morty, you've probably seen the episode The Vindicators 3, where Morty relates to Vance Maximus Rick's claim about the nature of morality. He says that good and bad are artificial constructions. So again, it's something that's a construction or an invention, not something that's discovered like a scientific truth in Rick's view. A bit of an older movie, but also a play that I sometimes use as an example in ethics. Is called The Shape of Things. It's about a young artist and a boy a young man or a college student that she begins dating, and they have a conflict with each other. And then at the end of it, she claims that morality is all subjective, just like art is, and upset, understandably, but nevertheless expressing the contrary moral position or metaethical position. He says, "You honestly have no concept here. I guess I'm done. In a nutshell, I'm just saying that you should be better, a better person, not better like me, just better," implying that there's some kind of standard of moral better and worse that's not just a reflection of his own personal likes and dislikes. So more of an objectivist view of morality being expressed there. So just a few examples of some metaethical claims and a little bit more about what we'll be doing in the metaethics section of the course. So just to summarize a little bit, we've been talking about these two basic areas we're gonna be looking at for the most of the semester. And so we've got these normative claims that tend to be like first order claims and the more familiar notions of morality that we're with. And then in terms of metaethics, we can ask about the standard or status of those claims. Are they real or are they constructions, right? And so here's again just a way of summarizing it with the example of the golden rule. The golden rule has it's a normative standard. It tells us to treat others as you would want them to treat you. And then we could have some normative questions about that standard. Why is the golden rule the correct standard compared to other normative theories like the deontological categorical or imperative, or the utility principle, or the golden mean from Aristotle, right? And then we could ask, again, some normative questions here. How should we interpret and understand the golden rule precisely? Is it telling me that I should treat others as I would want to be treated if I were in their shoes, with my desires, beliefs, and interests, or with their desires, interests, and beliefs? So again, different ways of understanding even what the golden rule might require of us are going to be some questions in normative ethics. And then we could ask about the ultimate status of the golden rule. However it's interpreted, is it correctly? Is it objectively or universally true? Or is it merely a contingent and relative feature of certain cultures or groups or personality types? And then again, the question of moral motivation. Is it always rational to follow the golden rule if it is the correct standard of right and wrong? So again, just a way of summarizing those two basic aspects of morality that we'll be focused on in this class this semester. I hope this helps make some sense of those different sorts of questions that we're going to be examining in the class, and also understanding the relationship between them. So I usually say it as that, you've got first order ethical theories and then metaethical second order theories. Those are about the status of those first order theories. And are they subjective, relative, real, mind independent, or social constructions, and so forth. And so, as we get into the material in metaethics, be on the lookout for those contrasting positions between the more skeptical side of that debate and then the realist and objectivist and universalist side of that debate. All right, hope this helps, and we'll see you in the next lecture video. Y'all take care.